Welcome back for another book review. Today we're talking about this one. So this I think is honestly the smallest out of all of the little books. So this is Llewellyn's little book of The Day of the Dead. Now the author's name, I do not speak Spanish, so I'm assuming it's Jaime, but I don't know if the J has the J sound or it's supposed to be the H sound. So it could be Jaime? Butchering, and then I don't know the last name. We're just not even gonna murder names. Obviously, Spanish is not a language I'm well aware of. I know, like, smidge bits. But this is one of those books that I was hesitant to get because if you don't know, I'm not huge on stepping on cultural toes. I try not to. And Day of the Dead is one of those things that I'm like, I don't want to be the, like, white girl who's just cultural appropriating left and right because I love this. Like, I have been in love with the vague concept that I know the Day of the Dead to be because I'm not raised with anyone in that culture. I know nobody who is full Mexican, second, third, fourth transition from Mexico generations, but a lot of the culture kind of remains. Like, I'm not in a very heavily populated area where, like, Mexican culture is really big. We have a lot of Mexican, like, immigrants, but, like, it's not like a cultural change where you would see it in other places, like in Southern California. I think Arizona has it a bit, Texas, like, kind of that general region, like, you got a lot of that influence. Then we don't have that here. Utah is like, we are the world hub for the Mormons. That's our thing. So, like, there are obviously, like, Mexican heritage here. And I say Mexican because I'm like, based off this, it is a Mexican holiday. And I don't know if it's, like, all of, like, current Mexican borders, but, like, Mexican. Like, and I don't say that as a derogatory thing, just in general. I don't know if it applies to all of, like, Central America, but for this case, I've always heard it as a Mexican holiday, which is fine. We can have Irish holidays, we can have Mexican holidays, and this is one I have always wanted to do. And reading through this book, I was very hesitant, because I'm like, I shouldn't touch that. Just like I don't really touch a whole lot on, like, the Appalachian, however you're supposed to pronounce it, because, like, I don't live there. I have ancestry who currently lives there and has lived there, but, like, I just don't touch that, because, like, not my world. And so, like, I felt this was even more appropriate of, like, I should probably not dip my toes into something I have zero say in. My ancestry does not come from there at all. Like, full-blooded European, probably all northern. All of my ancestry seems to come from Upper Europe, like the UK region, like Ireland and England, and I think we have, like, some of, like, the Scandinavia area. I don't know exactly where, if it was Norway or, like, Denmark or whatever, maybe even Germany, but, like, upper. So, like, obviously, for me, I have a hard time being like, yeah, I could totally just celebrate Day of the Dead. But I'm so intrigued by it. So my first, like, major introduction to the Day of the Dead, I know this is a lot of backstory, but hear me out. So for the Day of the Dead for me, I was first introduced to it in my Spanish classes that I was taking in, like, middle school and high school. I fell in love with it. I loved it. It's so freaking cool. But I was a witch by that point, which means I knew cultural appropriation. That was a conversation pretty early on in my craft. So, didn't want to step on toes. And it's like an active culture. So it was like, I probably shouldn't touch that. And also, is it a Catholic holiday? Like, it's kind of a weird gray area, especially when I was learning about it, in a Utah school nonetheless. So, like, the thing that we had to do was that we kind of, it's like an extra credit assignment. You could get, like, some extra points to celebrate it in some way. So for a lot of us, we were, like, it was an option to go home and make a Day of the Dead altar. Did I do it the way this book describes? And based on my now internet searches of the Day of the Dead altars, didn't do that right at all. Like, I didn't know you're supposed to only have the, like, marigold, and I don't know if marigold and Mexican marigold are different. Don't know. But marigolds. And like, I didn't know that the tiers of the altar, like the different levels, have different significance and meaning. That wasn't included. So like, there was a lot that was like, I tried, kind of. And I don't think that the altar that I set up and the things that I did would really offend anybody, because it was like right around the time that the mummies in Egypt were like being abused. And I can't remember if they were like eating or burning them or what, but like people have just kind of been assholes with mummies for a long time. So like that was like really big news, and we're talking about honoring the dead, and then like these mummies are being like abused in some ways. So I was like, I'm gonna set it up for them. So I did. I don't think the ancestors that I'm probably not related to in the slightest, but like humanity as a whole related to, sure, like would have been offended that some random teenager a continent away is like, dude, that sucks. That's really not okay. Like, I don't think they would be offended at my attempts. So, like, because of that, like, I've always been intrigued, but that was the most I ever did. And even then I was like, I don't think I'm doing this right. Like, at all. But, like, now, like, I've tried a little bit over the years. Like, I love the idea of sugar skulls, but I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to actually do with this. Like, are you supposed to eat this? Because this is, like, straight sugar. And, like, you know, when I go to visit my family graves every year, like, you always see the Mexican families there, too. Like, they're off doing the exact same thing. They're decorating, they got flowers, they got a picnic, they are prepared. I'm usually scrambling and failing miserably because I do not plan ahead. I'm prepared this year. I got the little, like, roller thingy that, like, most people put, like, their children and, like, camping gear in. I've got one of those, and I'm gonna use it to go to the cemeteries, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna get me tools to clean the graves because the grass is a problem. But anyways, I've seen families there plenty of times. Pretty much since I started going to the cemeteries, they're there too. They're doing the same thing. They're decorating their graves, we're decorating ours, visiting with your dead, we're visiting with our dead. It's a wonderful experience. But like, I've never felt like I was allowed to like really dive into what is Day of the Dead. And like, the idea of like I don't know how to say words, but like the traditional look that a lot of people will dress up as, where it's like a skeleton and you got the flowers and the whole, that whole deal is like so pretty, first of all. But also, like, that felt so appropriative to be like, I mean, it's so pretty, but I don't know the historical and cultural context, so I'm just not gonna touch it. Again, not my place. And so, and again, I try not to step on toes. And so it's like, if it's an active, like, culture, I feel like I probably shouldn't just jump in because I want to. And so, like, I just never have. And then this book became a thing, and he gave me a permission slip at the beginning of the book. That's what I'm gonna call this book. This is my permission slip to look into it and maybe do a little bit. Because the author is Wiccan, and so he incorporates some Wiccan things on top of, like, traditional, like, Day of the Dead stuff. And honestly, a lot of it is, like, real close. Like, just, there's just something a little different to it. And, like, the way Mexican culture looks at death is so different. And I love it. It is so, so fascinating. Because, and even, I talked about this months ago when I was doing research for my own book on death, but, like, for, oh, which one was it? Was it From Here to Eternity, I think it was? From Caitlin Doty, Ask a Mortician. She talks about how Central America, they have, like, some really big rituals with the dead. Like, there are parts in, like, Central, and I don't know if it includes South America, regardless, they have, like, certain cultures do this thing where, like, you bring out your dead, you clean their bones, you clean their space. He talks about it in here, and I remember her talking about it, and she got to be involved in some of those, and, like, get to witness it, and it's like a whole thing. Granted, could I handle that? No. Absolutely not. That takes, like, you gotta be ready for that at a young age, because, like, trying to jump into that into adulthood, that's gonna be that's a cultural shock, to say the least. Like, I don't know that I could handle it. And, like, it's just one of those things where it's like, cultures are super different. It's not bad, it's just different. And, like, I'm sure we do stuff all the time that other cultures are like, what? Look on TikTok, seriously. even Europeans are like trashing on us constantly, but like still, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm super intrigued by these cultures, and like they have like the skulls, like actual human skulls that are like magic and like ancestors and like a big deal. And it's like, oh my God, like if I could be born into, like in the next lifetime, I would love to get to experience that life, but like as a witch still, but over there. I would get to love to know about that. That'd be so much fun. But anyways, so like this book, I feel like, is my permission slip to say that it's not cultural appropriation, it's cultural appreciation. Because truly, I appreciate this culture. Like, the Catholic influence, I'm not a huge fan of Catholicism much, but like, the people that do these things, and it's like, they have their own kind of pagan ancestry. Like, paganism isn't just Europe. Like, there's plenty of places that have a pagan, old pagan, lowercase pagan vibe. And so, like, their old gods of, like, the Aztecs and the different... That's the only one I know how to pronounce. But, like, all the old tribes over there, they did stuff, and then it's, like, changed over time, and now the Day of the Dead is, like, mingling with, like, modern-day Halloween, and it's just so perfect. And this book was, like, my little permission slip that it's like, I really do appreciate your culture. I'm gonna try not to screw it up. But, like, I love the idea of Day of the Dead. It is just, it's so much fun. And, like, he walks you through what to do. Even though this is a relatively small book, like, I'm ready to go buy this book. And, like, there are few books that I'm like, I need to go just buy it. Just grab it right now, just need to buy it. And this is one of those. I need to just go buy it. Because, like, I love this idea. I am so intrigued with the idea of, like, some of these exercises, like, early on, like, they're so intriguing. Like, make fun of death. Call death a bunch of different names. It's like, what? Like, that's not a thing we do. Really. And like there's like a whole exercise to do that, and like it talks about like why you do like the skeletal makeup, why the flowers are appropriate, and which ones are and which ones are like, I mean, if you're trying. But like it's just, it walks you through it, and it's not like in a judgy way, and it's also like super easy to do. Like the recipes, I am so stoked to try. I don't actually know how you're supposed to do it. I'm gonna have to continue my researching a little bit, because like I was a little confused on that, but it could just be me like hyper reading through, like so excited that you're not actually reading every word. I tried to catch it, but I might have missed if he said it somewhere. But like I feel like the sugar skulls, because I'm picturing like the little ones, and because for the old school pagans here on YouTube, or not Pagiption, Term Pixie Flora did video on those, and so I'm like referring back to that video in that size, but it's like, are you supposed to put those on the altar? Maybe. Don't know. Are you supposed to leave them on the graves? I feel like probably not. I feel like that might not be great for the stone itself. But, you know, like, we always leave flowers. Most of the time that's my go-to option. And, like, if I wanted to, I might carve, like, the small pumpkins. But, like, this is where, like, the UPG kicks in hard. Because I would probably put, like, Hell's Rune, because she's the goddess of the dead. So like it makes sense to have her kind of involved, which honestly, I think she would be so on board with this. Where it's like life and death are commingling constantly. Like, this is just so much fun. I could honestly just rave about the idea of this forever. I love the concept of this. Obviously, I love this book. I'm really intrigued. I want to do this. As I was reading through it, like how to set up your altar, I'm sitting there picturing like, I could do that. Do I have enough space? Because, like, I have a lot of dead people now to keep track of, and, like, trying to think of how I want to do that. But, like, it's just, I'm gonna try it, I think, this year. Because, again, my permission slip of a book. Because it is coming from a place of cultural appreciation, not appropriation. The way he described the appropriation in this situation is the people who just, like, dress up, again, in that traditional, like, very flowery, flowy, very kind of traditional dresses of the area, and like the full like skeletal face where you've got like the like flowery imagery on top of it. But you do it because it looks cool and not for like the reasons behind it, and you're not like researching like the why behind it, which obviously I'm trying, and I'm gonna look it up more because like I did try to do sugar skulls last year, messed that up royally. Also, this does sound a little bad, but like I'm gonna trust the recipe of the guy from Mexico who does this all the time a lot more than the mommy blogger that's like more like me trying to tell me how to do this. So I'm hoping his recipes are gonna work out. But yeah, really, this is just one of those books that it's like, I was so timid to like consider it. Cause like, it's just one of those things where it's like bouncing around from like your European ancestors is usually approved of, Egyptian kind of, cause it's like, if you follow the current scientific theory, we all came from Africa. But like, I don't know, there's just something about like other continental cultures that it just is like, I don't want to step on your toes. Because our ancestors were not the greatest of people. I'm not them. I'm really not. Just trying to appreciate what you're doing over here because it looks like fun. So I am going to, I think, try to do the ritual here. I think it would be so much fun. I love the idea of it. And so again, I hope I don't step on cultural toes. And I know that some people get offended because of that, but like whatever, dude. So anyways, moral of the story, if you were intrigued with Day of the Dead, I highly recommend you read this book. It is small, you'll get through it really fast. It gives you a baseline to work off of, gives you ideas, recipes, the historical background, the modern day stuff. It's such a good book, so I highly recommend it. I'm really excited to do this. Thank you to the author whose name I can't pronounce. I want to say your name's Jamie. I know that's probably not how it's pronounced though, so my bad. But seriously, it's such a good book. Like, I don't get books very often. I think I've only had maybe 5 this year that is like truly like, I need to go buy this book. Like, and when I don't, I do get really sad because I'm like, I need this book. Because like the Kitchen Table Tarot, whatever book, I still really want that book a lot. Still haven't bought it. But this one, I'm like, it's time appropriate. I need to go buy it. And copal incense, because that's apparently the ingredient. I don't know that I have any left. So anyways, moral of the story, I highly recommend this book. I love this book. It was so much fun. It is super inspiring. It might not be to you. And like, to me, Day of the Dead is the balance that I've always wanted for Samhain and Halloween. It like just marries the two so perfectly. And I know Day of the Dead is its own thing. And yet he also talks about how like Halloween and Day of the Dead are so intertwined at the same time nowadays for a lot of people, kind of like Samhain. So like, it's just a weird time where like, we just have a lot of celebrations that just kind of commingle in the melting pot that is here. So anyways, I'm just really stoked. I really love this idea of this whole ritual and the Day of the Dead thing. And like, just the way they celebrate stuff, I love it. It fits more for me than the New Year vibes. This doesn't feel like the New Year, this is the end of the year. And like the way it's like somber, but really not with your dead too. This book, I could ramble on forever. I already have. I'm 18 minutes in. So I don't know how long when I edit it down, but right now I'm at like 18 to 19 minutes. So I feel like this is more than enough of a video rambling about this book. But basically, I have always been intrigued with Day of the Dead. He gave me a permission slip. This was really well written, especially for somebody who doesn't know much about it. I feel like I know a little bit more, but like I would still want to research more. So anyways, that is enough rambling for this book. I would highly recommend it if you are intrigued with the idea of Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. I know I butcher it. I try. I listen to it on Google Translate, speaky speak, but still not good at it. Anyways, so moral of the story, I love this book. I feel like it was really informative. It's like, again, I love the permission slip at the beginning because like that's one of the main reasons I don't look into it much, because like I don't want to step on people's toes. It's not my culture. But like at the same time, I love this idea. I love the way they look at death. In Mexican culture with Day of the Dead, like it's a part of life, which it should be, because it is. But like the way they handle it, like it doesn't have the somber that we usually have around death and the ancestors, and it's very quiet and like in reverence. It's a party. And if you've never been to like, not even just Mexican, but just like in general, like Central America, like little bits of like upper South America, like Venezuela and stuff, like if you've never been to one of their parties, dude, you're missing out. Because every single one I've ever gone to, which isn't a lot, but it's a few, they know how to party. So I imagine their dead are also on board with more parties, because like they go balls to the walls. So like I love the idea of you're honoring your ancestors by having a big party and just bringing them into and being like, listen, let us celebrate together. Like I love the idea of it. And again, the altar and just the things with it, I just love it. Love it so much. So anyways, this book, I was very timid, shy walking into it because it's like, it's one of those where you're longing from behind the glass of like, it's so pretty over there. I feel like I don't belong on the other side of the glass, but it's so pretty. And then he gave me the permission slip to walk behind the glass, so obviously I'm not gonna like run wild with it, but for me, doing my own little thing in my corner over here, already honoring my dad, like, I love the idea of this. I'm already planning, like, how am I gonna decorate my altar? It's gonna be wonderful. So, anyways, I would love to hear if you celebrate Day of the Dead, what do you do? And, like, what do you do with the food? I don't know what to do with the bread, because we talked about a few different kinds of breads and stuff. Do you just bake that, and then that's just for the dead? Do you make 2 loaves, one for the altar, and then one for, like, the people, the living people? I need to know that. Couldn't find that answer, but I also was, like, too excitedly reading this to find the answer, because I was digging through this book quickly because I was like, oh my god. I was really, really excited about this book, to be honest. So anyways, I would love to hear if you celebrate, if you've read this, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I try to post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.